so I have somewhere to put my baking soda that spills out. And then we've got a teaspoon of that. So we'll put that aside. And we're going to, oh, can't forget our salt. So you can measure it out with a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a shake because it's more like a pinch of salt. But if you're not used to your recipe, it's always good to measure because baking is more of a science than cooking is. Wonderful. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take our wet mixture. We're going to quickly add my vanilla because I almost forgot. So we're going to add the vanilla to our wet mixture. See, normally I would say be nice and careful with this and do it over the sink and not over your bowl. But the nice thing about vanilla is it's hard to add too much of it unless you're using like a pure vanilla extract. So be careful depending on the type of vanilla you're using. So we're going to stir that in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take our little cup again and we're going to pick up our dry ingredients and we're going to add it to our wet ingredients in little bits. So you might need an adult to help you with this step because the more of your dry ingredients you add to this bowl, the harder it's going to be to stir. Because it's going to just get thicker and thicker. So that's why we're adding it in little bits. It would be way too hard to add it all at once. I did that once when I was little and I could barely stir it. It was so hard to do. Alrighty, we're going to take a little more flour. And for those of you who don't know, on Facebook at 12, we're going to be doing a hot chocolate party. We can eat our brand new baked cookies. So what a hot chocolate party is, you're wondering, maybe, is it's a tea party, but instead of tea in your teacup and in your teapot, you have hot chocolate. Now, I like tea, but I prefer hot chocolate because chocolate is one of my favorite things. My favorite things to eat would have to be chocolate, soup, roast, and ice cream, and of course, sandwiches. So we're going to keep adding that flour from one bowl to the next. And of course, you can always let me know if you would like any of the other princesses or my sister or anyone else come in to bake something with you. This is our first time baking. Let us know what time works for you. Also, if you'd prefer to bake on Facebook or whatever it is that you're thinking. Wonderful. So it's getting nice and thick now, as you can see. It's getting harder to move it. So I might need to switch over to a wooden spoon because I don't want this to get all stuck in my whisk. Because we don't want to lose any of that precious cookie dough. Oh dear. Make sure you're careful because sometimes it can go flying. All right, we're gonna give this a quick tap so you can get any of the rest of it off. And we're gonna put that in there so it's not just resting on the table. And now I think there's just enough flour that I can tip the rest of my dry ingredients in this bowl. Now this recipe is supposed to make about 5 dozen cookies, but it all depends on how big you make your cookies. Depends what you prefer. Today I've made half of the recipe because I don't need too many for just me, Olaf, Kristoff, not for Sven because reindeers can't have chocolate, and of course Elsa. So there's not a whole lot of us because I'm definitely making these cookies for our family game night tonight. And now what we get to do is the fun part. We're going to add our chocolate chips. Now, I'm not going to eat the cookie dough because it's got raw egg in there, and you just got to be careful. But I might snack on a couple of our chocolate chips. Snacking is really the best part of baking. Now we're just going to throw those in there, and we're going to give it a good stir. We want to make sure we get lots of those chocolate chips incorporated in there. The more chocolate chips, the better. So if you have any extra, you can always add that in. A good tip is if you have extra chocolate chips, save a couple of them off to the side and you can place them on the tops of your cookies. Alrighty. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a prepared baking tray. So it can be either a non-stick or something with parchment paper or a grease baking tray. Today I have it lined with this nice cookie mat so I can see exactly what size to make my cookies and also how to space them out. So that's really nice. So this is what we're going to be using today. And we're going to be using about a tablespoon of dough for each cookie. And any leftovers we're going to freeze, which of course Elsa can help me with that later. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our hands because we've washed them. And we're going to make some little blobbies with our cookies. Ooh, good thing we're wearing an apron. I always found this the most fun part of making cookies because it's kind of like playing with Play-Doh. Do any of you like to play with Play-Doh? And if so, what do you like to do? Do you like to make things with it? Let me know in the comments below. So we're almost done setting up our cookies, and then we're gonna end the stream here and we'll get them all ready for the oven. So we're just going to take any leftover dough we have because we actually only made enough for one batch because I scaled down the recipe. And we're going to make some of these cookies a little bit bigger. We made sure they were nice and spaced out so they won't overlap each other. Alrighty. This could almost make another cookie of its own. And if you're going to be using your hands, make sure that you cleaned them before you started cooking, because that's very important, especially if you're going to be serving your cookies to somebody else. In fact, if you are serving them to somebody who's not your family, who knows you used your hands to make the cookies, maybe use some spoons. All right, so that is our cookies all ready to go. Now I'm just going to clean off my hands so we can get these in the oven. And before I send them off to the oven, I'll give you a look. Ours ended up a little bit bigger than 1 tablespoon each, but that's okay because they're going to be really nice and gooey and delicious. Now, when you're putting them in your own oven, once the oven is heated to 375 because we preheated, you're going to be baking them for 8 to 10 minutes, but if yours are big like mine, it may take a little bit longer. So make sure that you watch them to make sure that you're not over or under baking them. For cookies, you want them to be not too gooey in the top that they jiggle, and you want them to be kind of golden around the edges. So these are going to flatten out a little bit. Okay. We're also going to take a little bit of that hand sanitizer just because it's pretty sticky. This would be easier if you were near your sink, of course. Alrighty. And there we go. So I'll give you a quick look. So those are our cookies. And if you'd like to see them all finished, you can join me on Facebook for our hot chocolate party, because no hot chocolate or tea party is complete without snacks. Now, for all the kids out there, thank you so much for watching. Parents, if you'd like to help support Our Kingdom in Arendelle, you can always check out our most recent post to find out how. If you missed the beginning of this, we'll be posting it as a video later and you can watch it back. And thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And thank you so much.